So I hope none of you all mind tonight, because today we're going to have sort of a chill night where we talk about the video that I made yesterday, because frankly it's a topic that I'm really invested into. Even after editing that video, uploading it, posting it, whatever you want to call it, I was still looking at this information more and more, and it got to a point where I could almost literally make a whole nother video. But instead of that, I wanted to talk about sort of the video yesterday, a couple of moral stances, alright? So there's going to be a little bit of a moral muda coming across, but I also wanted to sort of show you guys a little bit of alternate stuff, and just something I found really weird from my perspective. Now, yesterday we made a video on the Nintendo Switch hack, or whatever, coming across, and the product that I'd actually showcased in that video was from Team Zecutor called SXOS Pro. And the software is used to essentially run custom firmware on the Nintendo Switch using the boot ROM exploit that NVIDIA actually had planted into the Nintendo Switch. Not even Nintendo's fault, really. Now, for the preface over there was a lot of people who wonder that, is it something that Nintendo's not going to like? Point is, Nintendo doesn't like that situation to begin with. But inherently in that video, there's nothing wrong, nothing that Nintendo could flag out in any way, shape, or form. We were well within our legal rights to essentially cover something like that. And at no point did I ever show any form of piracy, and I don't want anybody. I made it very specifically clear that I don't condone any form of piracy. Running homebrew software on a device that you paid for is totally fine in my opinion. You paid for a device, it's yours, nobody can take it back, and it's all within your right, in my moral opinion, to be running whatever program you want on a device that you legally purchased and brought home. Now, the situation with this system in particular is a little iffy to begin with, but concerning Nintendo, there is really no issue on that point whatsoever. And I don't support any form of that piracy stuff, whatever that the situation that the OS was really perpetrating, and we'll get to that. If anybody, Nintendo has to be pissed off at NVIDIA. NVIDIA is the reason this exactly exists the way that it does. If you have any other Tegra X1 chipsets out there in the wild, I'm pretty sure they could all be put into the same RCM modes, the same debug modes that NVIDIA had left in when the Switch was being developed. I don't know whose fault it really was, whether it was primarily Nintendo's or NVIDIA's, because Nintendo actually has really good security. They have a trust zone verification system, kind of like the Apple Security Enclave, or Samsung also has a similar situation, but regardless, they've been doing some pretty intelligent things on their perspective. Nintendo has learned from the Wii and the Wii U when those systems were modded to high hell. They know what they're doing. It's just that NVIDIA fucked them over this time pretty royally. Now, when I was covering the SXOS device, I said the tool sets in it were fine. It had a USB payload, it had the jig with it. The reality is the jig doesn't cost much to get anyways. If you wanted, you could go online and get yourself like a $3, you could download the jig 3D, the AutoCAD file, send it to a 3D print shop, get your jig, and then just rewire it yourself in a couple minutes, and you'll have a similar jig in the first place. You could probably make one higher quality if you wanted, if you're willing to pay more for it. But you could do that, and as long as you have a computer and a basic knowledge of Linux terminal commands, you're fine. You don't have to worry about anything else. You can launch your payloads no problem willy-nilly. And that's all fine and dandy. The software itself was pretty decent, at least for me. I was running my homebrews from start to finish. Now, what I want to make a video on later for sure, but what I also want to mention over here is something called Atmosphere, which is another Nintendo Switch custom firmware in the process. And I have it right over here real quick, so you can actually look at it real fast. Let me just move that over. This is another piece of CFW that's coming out pretty soon. This is their GitHub profile right over here. You can go over here and get the stuff downloaded, and if you've got the technical know-how to launch it on your Switch, you can launch it. And I've been sort of playing around with both of these right now. And I gotta say, in some way, SXOS and Atmosphere are sort of beating one another, at least from my perspective right now. My SNES emulation is better on Atmosphere, but my GBA emulation is better on SXOS. Right now, these custom firmwares are a little too early to be out for them to have any form of proper stuff attributed to them. This is like the first start to this kind of stuff anyways. But the reason I'm making this video is ever since yesterday, or I guess today, now it's weird, I've been looking real knee-deep into how SXOS has been doing, and they've broken two tenets in my opinion already, which makes me not able to support that product. I mentioned it in the tail end anyways. But for those of you who don't know, these guys are using source code improperly. They have managed to use source code and not attribute it properly. They're leaving Basically, once you use open source, your program has to be open source. They haven't done it. They've closed sourced their program and it's to pay for. There's nothing wrong with paying for something that is also open source, but they've deliberately closed off their sources while using real. That's a big no-no. But another issue over there is brick code. For those of you who don't know, the brick code that is currently in SXOS can leave your Switch unable to run. If you remember the days of Gateway 3DS, which was like a classic flash cart anyways, this was a device that could brick your 3DS if you were running like a pirated Gateway 3DS or some off-brand version of it. These guys made sure to have a lot of stuff in there that was in violation with, well, ethical principles whatsoever. I get that they worked on this product for a while, but having fucking DRM that can brick your device in a product designed to violate the DRM of other programmers is pretty fucking hypocritical. Now, I'm pretty against piracy myself in the sense that Nintendo makes some good-ass games, alright? If you're gonna fucking own the Switch, a system that has really good games on it, be ready to fucking pay for these. These are good games. Developers have mouths to feed too. That's not the issue that I want to perpetrate. What I have a problem with is these guys deliberately putting in issues, deliberately putting in some form of DRM that is capable of basically destroying or rendering a $300 device unusable. It just makes no sense to me. I would say I would highly recommend, you got people over here anyways arguing on GBA Temp right now, a site that wholly focuses on this kind of stuff about this situation. Some people are for it, some people are against it, but the reality is this is one of those things that should not really be supported in any way, shape, or form. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below, but I feel like SXOS or Team Zecutor needs to change some of their models real quickly. Otherwise, this device is in no way supported by anybody. In my opinion, you just can't support something that is literally designed to break the DRMs. I know it's running backups, but I get that breaking DRM does not give you the right to be destroying $300 devices in the first place, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, this is an interesting situation, and I wanted to make a follow-up video because this is more than just a virus investigations video. I like modding these systems, and the Switch is a hot commodity to be modding right now, more so than, in my opinion, a PS4 and Xbox One. I want to see where this goes, and I want to see where Atmosphere goes, because hopefully by the time it's released properly, it'll be a better solution, one that doesn't run off the backs of piracy to begin with, and one that just has a better compatibility for my emulators. I don't know. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. I've let this video drag on for far too long. This is me, Mutahar, and I am going to stream.